Hey cats, it's your midsole man Eddbud here. This weekend I'm taking on the London Big Half. September the 1st is the date. It's looking like it's going to be quite warm in the capital, 17 degrees without any wind. I'm targeting a finish of 1 hour 30 on this one. I did get close earlier this year at the testing Yeovil half marathon with 1 hour 31:03. I'm all set training wise, but shoe choice is always difficult. I've narrowed down my selection to 4 models: the ASICS METASPEED SKY PARIS, the Nike Alpha Fly 3, the PUMA DEVIATE NITRO ELITE 3, and the ASICS METASPEED Edge Paris. Which one am I going to choose for this half marathon event? Let's take a look. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. Do help the channel to continue to grow by hitting that subscribe button and also giving this video a thumbs up like. You can help us out and support us on a more ad hoc basis as well by dropping us a super thanks or becoming a member. It's always appreciated. Dankeschön. So earlier this year, taking on the Yeovil half, managed a 1 hour 31:03 finish in the ASICS METASPEED SKY Paris. It is quite a hilly course, the Yeovil one, lots of elevation. It's by no means like a flat half marathon. I think it's about 800 foot of elevation across that, and I was actually quite amazed come the last couple of miles that I would even get close to that 131. It's practically throwing me forwards, this shoe, certainly down some of the latter parts of the race. I find with this, the bounce, the squash, and the sort of ease of maintaining higher paces is exceptional, really. I think it's something to do with the flatter nature of the plate within the METASPEED SKY Paris. Where they've positioned it in the foam, it just seems to work for the way I run at certain paces. I mean, the weather was spot on that day as well. It was about 8 degrees C, which is nice and comfortable, I suppose. And you had a following wind on the way back into Yeovil, which always helps. Grip, traction and underfoot feel sort of unmatched really for me amongst the super shoes, and it's certainly one of the best shoes of the year that I've tested out. It's going to be high up there at the end of the year when I do my top 10. I think durability is the only fly in the ointment with this one. 100 miles in, I've got some considerable wear here on the foam. I've done a couple of repairs here with some shoe glue at the back of the model as well, so that's my only real worry with this one. I got 100 miles into them and it starts to feel like there's 100 miles as well. They don't perhaps feel quite as airy and bouncy as they did out the box. I mean, I've got a half marathon and 2 10k PBs as well in this shoe, so you can't have it all, can you? So this one's certainly in the running, no pun intended. So that brings me on to the METASPEED Edge Paris. Now, this is certainly a different shoe underfoot. It really does feel quite different to me now I've got some more miles into it. I mean, everything else aside from the underfoot feel is pretty marginal. The upper's the same. The outsole's slightly different. You've got a slight area here which is cut out, which isn't in the Sky, and you don't have that sort of lateral forefoot cut out either. The major difference obviously being where the plate is located in the midsole of the shoe, and it certainly does make me run a little bit differently. When I first got them, I started running in the same way that I did in the METASPEED SKY Paris, and that didn't work quite as well, so do feel a little different over some recent runs, with some mile repeats and 5-minute intervals at half marathon pace. So that's 6 minutes 50 seconds per mile for me. So I'm feeling a little bit more at home in this shoe now I've kind of figured it out. Though bizarrely the weight's a little bit higher in this one, I don't know why. There's not a huge amount of material difference, I suppose, maybe some manufacturing tolerance there. And it's starting to feel a little bit closer, I suppose. Or at least in terms of the effort level that I'm putting in is closer now within this shoe at that half marathon pace. So with 100 miles into the METASPEED SKY Paris, I'm feeling a little bit more confident about using the Edge actually. Though of course my PBs are in that other shoe, so you can see my quandary. When I started examining the stride lengths between the two at certain paces and effort levels, I was quite amazed actually. It does appear like my ground contact is a little bit higher in the Edge versus the Sky, which ties in with that whole sort of cadence versus stride thing that ASICS had in mind with these two shoes. So I reckon a slight leaning towards the Sky on that front. Just feels like I'm covering a little bit more ground, slightly less effort, whereas this shoe certainly pushes me to increase my cadence. The Stride Pod had me running at 303 watts across the half marathon race in Yeovil earlier in the year, then 308 watts on the Martok 10k, that was a 41:04 finish, and then 305 watts for the 41:06 on the Easter Bunny 10k, that was in April. So you can see some real consistency there. Your boy's super consistent, like carefully mashed potatoes. Before I confuse myself any more with those two ASICS shoes, another option is the PUMA DEVIATE NITRO ELITE 3. Now this is a much softer shoe overall, and actually for a half marathon I'm almost sort of moving away from that. It's kind of response I want, though I think the upper actually on the PUMA shoes actually better in terms of the fit. There's a bit less of it, just seems to hug my foot a little better. I think traction wise and durability wise, the PUMA shoe's unmatched. I think it's about 60 miles into this one and you would not know that. The ASICS shoe certainly looks like it's done 100 miles. I think the rubber and the midsole are just closer to their original form out of the box than the two ASICS models. They're just functioning a little bit more as they were. So in terms of stride length at half marathon pace at least, I did see quite an increase, maybe taking advantage of that very soft foam here. It's probably urging me to sort of overstride almost. I think this shoe and the Metaspeed Sky Paris urge me to sort of lift my knee a little bit more as I increase that turnover. I did 9 miles in these the other day with some blocks of 1.5 miles at half marathon pace. She felt really good, hitting those effort levels pretty consistently actually across all 4 of the reps. So certainly in the running this one, 60 miles and it's still feeling really great underfoot. Lots of life left in this one, and that correlates really with the same foam that's used in the Farstar Nitro Elite 2. At 100 miles that one still felt incredibly good. I think it's that special type of TPU material that they've used in both of these shoes. It just really seems to have some considerable durability, at least when you compare it up against some of the more fragile foams in other manufacturers' models. Last but by no means least is the Alphafly 3. The balance of this shoe, just getting it in hand actually against the Puma, is quite considerable. It feels like a lot more of the weight is actually in the midsole of this one, probably due to the fact those AirPods are there, so it's a little bit more bottom heavy. There's only 18 miles in this Volt pair of the Alphafly 3, though you may be saying, well, you know, why are you considering this shoe? I've ran over 120 odd miles in the Alphafly 3 Proto colorway that I picked up earlier in the year. This one always feels a little bit better for me in terms of marathon pace rather than half marathon pace, and certainly where I'm looking for a little bit more kind of response, I suppose, from the midsole. I'm not entirely sure that that's what the Alphafly 3 has given me. It's certainly forgiving, that's for sure. I've run some really long efforts in the Alphafly 3 over the course of the year, and it always leaves my legs feeling really refreshed and good. But I think 6 minutes 50 per mile is probably the fastest sort of area that I'd run in this one. Just feels like a marathon option. I'm almost tempted to kind of leave this one be for a little while and use it next year. I just feel like the others are offering a little bit more when it comes to half marathon effort for me. So if I had to rank them all, it'd probably be the Alphafly 3 in 4th, the Metaspeed Edge Paris in 3rd, the PUMA Deviate Nitro 3 in 2nd place, and I'm still looking at using the Metaspeed Sky Paris for the race. At least that's what I'm thinking right now. I did consider the Endorphin Elite as well, took that out on a recent run, but again it's one of those shoes that feels better to me at marathon pace, and I was changing the way I was running in that shoe, and I just don't think I've logged enough miles in it to get the best out of it in this race. I think that goes the same for the Endorphin Pro 4 as well. I did switch up the laces in that one, but I still got a little bit of upper irritation around the tongue area. It's where the sort of flexible material that's on the top of your foot just sort of creeps over and doubles over. Wasn't entirely that comfortable for me. All these 4 in today's video at least are really comfortable on foot. I can't help but get a good lockdown. So that's my current thinking for the big half coming up this weekend. I am going to be in London on the Saturday afternoon. Might go out for a very easy run somewhere. If I do, I'll post something up on my socials. So do follow me over on Strava or Instagram as well. This link's in the description. What do you think I should go for the London race? Do you think I've got it right with the Metaspeed Sky Paris? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Very quick musical interlude for you. Recently I managed to pick up a discounted vinyl copy of Time Fades Away by Neil Young. I can remember first hearing this on like a old bootleg CD or something that somebody had copied for me, so I could hear the album. It was really difficult to get a hold of. It was one of those that never got re-released. There were only sort of scratchy vinyl copies around, and I've had one of those scratchy vinyl copies for years. Really brilliant album, but managed to pick up a new pressing, and it does sound really great. One of my favourite tracks on there is Don't Be Denied, which is kind of Neil talking about his early years, I suppose, getting into music, being at school and maybe getting pushed around a little bit, and then meeting some friends that were kind of, you know, similar to him and forming a band and the band getting big, and then realizing that, you know, there's lots of people out there that try to exploit you, but still making music and enjoying it nonetheless. Love the sound on this album. It's all live, warts and all, so there's all sorts of mistakes, and that just gives it character. It just makes it sound real, like there's actual people playing it rather than a load of machines. It is one of those albums that just has a real vibe to it, a real atmosphere, and it's definitely worth checking out. Time Fades Away by Neil Young. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. Let me know how you think I'm going to get on at the big half this weekend in London. I got a reasonably good feeling about it, although I think the major problem might be that it's going to be reasonably warm, certainly warmer than it was earlier in the year. I've just seemed to run better when it's cold, so hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you